Dave Lee just hinted that Tesla stock price could go up to $1,150 by the end of this year. We will break it down. And he also raises multiple concerns that we Tesla stock investors should really consider when investing into Tesla stock going forward. I'll go through those as well, and I'll give you my thoughts as basically an all-in Tesla stock investor. Dave Lee has a massive Tesla stock position. He's been investing into Tesla stock for about a decade now, and I would say he is perhaps the number one go-to source for concise Tesla stock information. So let's get into this.
So let's take a look at what the next 2 quarters might look like, because investors are looking forward, right? They're not going to dwell on just the past numbers. So if we look at Q3 of 2023 and Q4, let's assume that Tesla is going to meet their 50% right year-over-year growth guidance target, which comes out to be about 1.404 million cars, right? In order to do that, Tesla has to deliver 385,000 cars in Q3 and 455,000 cars in Q4. Let's say automotive revenues are $20 billion in Q3, $24 billion in Q4. Regulatory credits are about the same. Gross profit is $6.5 billion and $7.3 billion. So you have healthy gross margins, right? They're recovering around the same gross margin as Q1. Who knows? They could be higher as well. Q3 revenues will be $22.7 billion, Q4 $26.5 billion, and then you have a gross margin, GAAP gross margin at 29% and 29.7%. Operating expenses, I'm pegging it at just around $2.1 billion. I'm expecting some restructuring costs again in Q3, even though probably a lot less than Q2. And in Q4, Tesla might hire a bit more. Overall, I'm looking at this kind of 10% reduction more as a kind of a cost freezing effort, right? Temporarily freezing hiring, kind of reducing hiring, but you're going to hire in the next several quarters. So it'll probably even out overall. Income for operations or operating profit is $4.5 billion in Q3 and $5.8 billion in Q4. And so we're looking at operating margins of 20%, perhaps 22%. Now, this is one of the killer figures here. If Tesla can actually reach almost 22%, right, operating profit or operating margin in Q4, right, of this year, this will be huge, right? And you've got to basically take these numbers, Q4, because this is where Tesla will be at the end of the year. And let's say annualize that, right, over a 4-quarter period. And you'll see that the operating income, let's say it's almost $6 billion over 4 quarters, that's $24 billion of operating profit. And if you give a multiple, let's say 50 off of those numbers, that's about $1.2 trillion, right, in valuation just off of their Q4 numbers annualized.
We will get into the concerns that Dave Lee shares that he has for Tesla stock in just a moment, but basically, this valuation is roughly equal to $1,150 Tesla stock price target by the end of the year. We simply take $6 billion in quarterly income. We turn that into yearly income, which will equal $24 billion. We multiply it by times 50, and then we get $1.2 trillion market capitalization. Now, is this Tesla stock price target actually realistic? I think it is. Will it happen? Anything can happen with Tesla stock. It could keep falling down even if earnings keep going up. It's a little ridiculous what Tesla stock sometimes does or what the stock market does. But the fundamentals, the key point here is fundamentals clearly are getting much more better. If you look at the projections and if you look at Tesla stock history, deliveries are increasing, profit margins are increasing, everything is just getting better. All the fundamentals point to a good future. So just go through some of the questions that Dave presents to us here. For example, what is Tesla's strategy in dealing with unknowns of inflation? I think for that specifically, I'm not really worried at all. If you look at Ford Mach-E, for example, though, Ford is actually losing money. We had reports in June that Ford is actually losing money from every vehicle they sell, or at least they definitely are not making any. But because Tesla's margins are so huge, I don't think that would happen to Tesla. Short term, however, the margins could certainly shrink, but I'm a long-term investor. Over the long term, eventually inflation will come back to normal and we might have a bumpy ride. In the meantime, if inflation really skyrockets, and Tesla has a lot of back orders as well, so there might be a little bit of an issue there, but I see that as a short-term issue and really as a buying opportunity, because if everyone freaks out and everyone sees, oh, the margins, they are not as good as before, but that's all due to inflation, and if Wall Street thinks that's a big problem, I think that will create a buying opportunity if the stock goes further down, because everyone is going to be scared. The earnings, the margins are not there anymore, but really just inflation, and inflation eventually will come back to normal. 50% year-over-year growth guidance in 2022 and 2023. It's definitely not demand constrained. It's all about production. And for production, I think they will be fine. Giga Austin, Giga Berlin, Giga Shanghai, they will all be ramping up their production even more. However, I do see a substantial risk for Giga Berlin, at least short term, because of Russia. And if Germany loses their oil supply from Russia, you know, they just shut down one of the big pipelines and for maintenance. And if they don't reopen that back up, that could put serious constraints on Germany's economy, and Tesla possibly could be seriously affected as well. But looking at it long term, I don't see any major issues, just because Tesla vehicles, the margins are so high. Even if you have to pay a lot more for the energy, I think Tesla will still be okay. Let's pick a few more points from Dave's list of questions. Next one, where will unit growth come from in 2024? New model, perhaps? I really believe, looking at the demand that Tesla has for Model 3 and Y, really believe they can sell at least minimum 5 million of those two per year, minimum. And if we calculate just very quickly, let's just assume that this year Tesla will deliver 1.4 million vehicles, and let's assume they will, for 2023, we will have 50% growth, and then let's assume for the next year after that, also 50% growth. So in 2024, we would have about 3 million deliveries, and that would still leave us for 2025. If we just do another 50% increase, we would still be under 5 million vehicles per year. The question what I would ask is where the growth will come after 2025, 26. I think perhaps a new model. Will it be a cheaper model? Will it be a model in between Model 3 and Model S, and then Model Y and Model X? Or will it be a more mass market product? Because if Tesla has so much demand, there is also some demand in between those two models, between Model 3 and Model S. These vehicles would probably be more profitable than a smaller vehicle than a Model 3. But if Tesla solves full self-driving, which I think there's a very good chance they will do that fairly soon, which is why I believe Tesla stock will go to $10,000 per share by 2030 before the 3-for-1 stock split. They solve full self-driving in the next 3 years, then none of this matters anymore. They will just focus on full self-driving and smaller vehicles, and they will just focus on that probably exclusively, because the margins on those are going to be absolute insanity. FSD beta, of course, is of most interest to me, and I have this thought, this deep conviction that for FSD beta and for full self-driving, Tesla and Cruise and Waymo, they are not really competing against Tesla, at least at first when Tesla solves full self-driving. And even if Waymo and Cruise also solve full self-driving with LiDAR in the city, I think both of those models can actually coexist for quite a substantial amount of time. Because think about this, Tesla is not demand constrained, it is production constrained. If full self-driving really is solved, Tesla will be even more production constrained. The demand will skyrocket to unimaginable levels. So there will be many places where Waymo and Cruise could still go and coexist together with Tesla for a long time, because Tesla simply will not be able to satisfy all of that demand. So I really believe those two can coexist for some time, and then eventually, once Tesla satisfies most of the demand, I think it will be able to really easily beat Waymo and Cruise or any other solution based on LiDAR, geofencing, and HD map. I believe full self-driving will be very much like a search engine. The only one that people really use is Google, but there are some others. There's Yahoo, there's Bing, there's a few other ones as well, but there's really just one dominant player. Everyone wants the best one, and I believe for full self-driving, everyone will just want the best one, and perhaps even if it's extremely clear that Tesla's solution is so much more safer and ahead of everyone else, would governments consider banning other solutions because Tesla is just so much better and people are dying in other vehicles much more often than in Tesla's vehicles? And each death, and you know it can be prevented, that's a very big event, very unfortunate event, and a very big deal. So there could be some serious political pressure as well, but that remains to be seen. And just to revisit demand after 2024, I did not include Cybertruck in that. So Cybertruck, I believe, will sell extremely well, and if Tesla ever is demand constrained, they can make a whole line of cyber vehicles which will be substantially cheaper, and I think there would be a lot of demand for those as well. I have great respect for Dave Lee, and like I mentioned before, I think he's the #1 source for concise, straight to the point Tesla stock information. I highly recommend his channel for every single Tesla stock investor. That would probably be the #1 channel that I would actually recommend if you are busy and you don't have much time, because Dave only puts out videos and there's something to actually really talk about. So he doesn't cover every single news item, but he covers every single important news item. And he also has a very big Tesla stock position. I don't know exactly how big his Tesla stock position is, but one of my previous videos, there was a comment left by someone that stated Dave has 35,000 shares of Tesla stock, which would make it a very big position. I'm not sure exactly how big Dave's position is. I just know it's very big. If anyone knows where Dave mentioned the size of his position, I would appreciate that. Just simply drop a comment down below. And thank you for watching. If this is your first time watching this channel, my name is Matt Postis. I'm a millionaire serial entrepreneur and investor, and the only stock in my stock portfolio that I own is Tesla. I have private businesses and real estate, so in a way I am diversified, you could say, but in my stock portfolio, the only one that I own is Tesla, and I used to own S&P 500. I sold all of that, and eventually I went into Tesla stock. The first time I bought Tesla stock was in 2019, and when I bought, the market for Tesla stock just went down about 40%, and then it did all right. But Tesla stock can be very, very volatile. So if you are not able to hold throughout volatility, I don't think I would recommend to anyone to only hold Tesla stock. But if you are able to do that, then maybe that's something to consider. And if you only own Tesla stock, I have great respect for you. And holding through those difficult periods, of course, is not easy, but I believe Tesla stock will 10x at least, minimum, by 2030, and really I think it will reach a price target of about $10,000 per share. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice. Thank you for watching. Watch another video, the Tesla stock predictions by Chicken Genius come true. It's a pretty good video. Highly recommend it. His name is Ken, actually, and he has a few $1 million of Tesla stock shares, and in fact he basically only owns Tesla stock. He has a hedge against his position right now, making it basically a cash position. So that's another interesting perspective to watch if you are just all into Tesla and you are wondering why a former Tesla bull would change his position, at least short term. He will buy back in again, and I made another video exactly at what price target he will end up going in again, which I think you should really watch as well. Thank you for watching. My name is Matt Postis, and I'll see you in the next video.